Um, Hello, welcome back. Today, I want to discuss something that is, I think, pretty important in this current climate of things. Okay. Now, I know it's equivalent to being a dead horse right now because it happened nearly, I'd say, almost a decade ago. It's not exactly a decade ago. It's more like 7 years ago. But the pandemic has had a very big influence on our lives. Shocker, I know. Let me explain. What I mean by that is that it affected our social skills a lot. Again, it's not really a fresh take, it's something that we're all really familiar with. Um, but I want to share my personal story regarding quarantine and how it has affected, you know, how I interact with people socially and, my advice or my takeaway from my experiences that I've had over the past couple of years. Now, as many people uh, of this generation, I too was, a teenager, I'd say, when lockdown just had begun. And prior to that, obviously, before you're a teenager, you're a child, right? Now, the good thing about being a kid is that people don't take you seriously. Now it's a double-edged sword. It means that you could be trying to convey a valid point, but people try to, take it with levity because, like I said, you are a child. But at the same time, it's sort of like a pass. You can say stuff and get away with it. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't misuse that. But I'm just saying. Um, so, what I mean by that is if you say something out of the pocket or like overtly frank as a child, you are more likely to just, people are just gonna laugh it off more often. But when you get over that phase, when you're not a child anymore, when you are to, when you enter to the parts of your later age of your teenage years, people, start treating you like much more like an adult in terms of maturity. So um, you got to be more careful about what you say, obviously. But another thing that this results in is a sort of self awareness, which is a good thing. This means that, you will develop a good understanding of what to say in a social setting and not. You will be able to familiarize yourself with, proper etiquette while behaving in the public. But the downside of that is, especially during a turbulent period like adolescence, we are more likely to give importance to others' perception of ourselves. So, uh, very simply put, we tend to become more afraid of how others would judge you when you say certain things. You know, Um, from my part, like I said, I really didn't even think about it much growing up as a child. But uh, afterwards, after quarantine and all of that, you spend 2 or 3 years. For me, it was the transition period from a kid to a teenager. And while I was an early teen by the time quarantine ended, I was way more awkward socially than I expected, and it did affect my confidence, I should say, because prior to this, I was way more social. I used to have no problems interacting with virtually anybody, to be honest, striking up a conversation with somebody or public speaking, stuff like that. And it's just something that I never gave a second thought to, something that came to me naturally. But then after lockdown, it seemed like what I did with ease in the past is something that I can't even do if I put much effort into post lockdown. And the reason for that, I feel, is because obviously we've spent 2 years virtually behind the screens back then. So we really weren't that used to interacting with people outside our screens. It was mostly texting, and maybe calling, but things like video conferencing was not that something that I did very often. So yeah. Um, Now, the issue is after lockdown, I entered a period of my life where academics was of prime importance. So I really didn't have much time to hone or really regain, I should say, because hone means I already have some, just need to sharpen it. It kind of seemed like I'd lost a lot of those abilities as such going into the later parts of my life after lockdown. So I didn't really have much of an opportunity to rebuild, I should say, my social skills and confidence with people in general. And I just started thinking so much about this most simplest of actions and how people would perceive them, whether I should do it or not, even in just simple social settings. You know, I was embarrassed of making a fool out of myself, even though, it's my first time visiting there, so it's understandable technically if I don't know what's going on. But, I don't really have the nerve to, raise my voice alone in public to ask a question. Really, it seemed a bit unnerving to draw attention to myself, even if for a little bit, and even if it was for a valid reason. And now that that period of my life has kind of subsided, I mean, like, right now I'm on a break from academic things, really, because I'm entering college. So during this little vacation period, I am trying my best to, regain a lot of those skills. And I realized a thing of very big importance that I feel like a lot of us do not give enough importance to. A phrase, to be honest. Fuck it, we ball. I know it's up until right now it wasn't really that informal, the conversation, and all of a sudden I drop a very informal catchphrase like that. But I cannot emphasize on how important that one phrase is for a lot of us, because the essence of a lot of for the essence of the problem that people like me face when it comes to doing things is that you think too much. Usually, the saying goes like, you should think before you act. Uh, we do too much thinking. That is the issue. We start thinking, and we go down this flow chart of multiple possibilities, and we try to conjure up the worst case scenario, and we try to think of the embarrassment, the emotional damage that it would cause uh, if we get embarrassed in public. What would others think of us? So on and so forth. What if I will not be able to do that? What if I do a speech? What if I forget? What if I stumble through my words? What if I embarrass myself in front of my peers? Or if I am in a public space, if I speak up, like I said, what if people look at me different? Or if I dress a bit fancy going out, would people look at me and think I'm like a schmancy pantsy? Like basically we think a lot. We think a lot, and I'd say when you live life, obviously you're living in a society. I'm not saying that you should not live in a single bubble where the only thing that you should care about is your own thoughts, But I think like a simple philosophy that we can generally go with while living life is that, you should be free to do whatever you wish as long as you're not hurting others. So, as long as you're not actively causing harm to somebody, um, then you should be free to do whatever you wish. So, if you do something that is of no harm, but people judge you regardless, fuck it, we both. Don't worry about it. It's your life. What power do they hold upon you? It is your life. It's up to you to take your decisions. It's up to you to live it. We have been given this beautiful blessing of a life, right? It is the most wonderful thing ever because we have, the power to make our own decisions. We have been blessed with the ability to think. Uh, we are in a conscious state, right? And whatever happens after death and all that, we don't know, and we'll possibly never know. But one thing that we know for sure is that life only exists until death, obviously, and that is probably the only certain thing in life. You will die one day. You don't know when, you don't know how, but that is one certainty in life. So, worrying about all of that is sort of like you're wasting the beautiful periods of your life. Let's just say you're worried about death, the final end, and you become risk averse because of that. You are scared to do things because you think that, you know, what ifs, a lot of, I'm not saying you should have the basic survival skills. You should. I'm not talking about, a lion stands in front of you, I'm not saying if a lion stands in front of you, you should pounce into its arms. That is stupid. Obviously, evolution has hardwired us so that we can survive. But, you know, we shouldn't just go by lives, just hanging on to it, you know? It's, you should live it. You should live your own life. That's what I'm trying to say. So if you are being risk averse, and the reason is because you perform some sort of mental gymnastics and associate a particular task with death, and that is what's stopping you from doing that task, even though that is something that genuinely interests you. You think to yourself, oh, I'm not built for this. Man, fuck that. I'm tired of people saying stuff like that because, yeah, I mean, no shit. People are not born being able to do certain things. Of course, some people might have more aptitude to perform certain tasks than others, sure. But it's not like a baby is born and then they have certain attributes just bestowed upon them and that are the only things that they can do. That's not like that. If you don't think you're built for something, then sculpt yourself so that you're capable of doing it. Don't say, oh no, I can't do this and just run away. Take the effort to, sort of build yourself from scratch up to that level so that you can do the task or do the activity that you wish that you could do. When you say, I'm not built for this, it's not really a sense of, it's not modesty, it's not self-realization. It is, a sort of self-pity and easy way of escape from what you really wish to do, right? Well, that's how at least I feel. Now, again, I'm not a big philosopher or anything. I'm just a young boy who's still living through life, and at least I'm speaking from my own personal experience, I should say. So, yeah, the point that I'm trying to make is right now, after vacation, I've I've gone out more. I've spent more time with people. In fact, I'd say like setting up this YouTube channel in and of itself was an experiment, so that I don't have to script anything. I just open the camera and I set it up, just press record and just speak my mind, so that I can just say whatever, and just not really care about what others really think. And yeah, like I said, don't worry about what others might think, because like I said, it's your life. They got no they got no role in it, right? And if And if the reason why you are avoiding certain tasks is because you think you've had bad experiences, well, you shouldn't dwell on your past. The past is past. There's nothing you can do about it. But you can shape your future because it depends on your present. And the present is the only time you have the power to make a difference, right? So just just fucking do it. Don't think too much. If you struggle with such issues, then clearly you're a thinker. Not just a thinker, you're an overthinker. Don't dwell on your mistakes. Understand them. Atone for them if you can. And try your best not to repeat them in the future. That's all. And as always, like I said, whenever you feel like there's something that you want to do, that you sincerely wish to do, something that's not, objectively dangerous to your life or anybody else's, and the only thing that's stopping you is your own fear or your own embarrassment, your own irrational things that are stopping you from doing it, just say to yourself, fuck it, we ball. That's about it. Thanks.